These videos are somewhat dimly lit still, but I have yet to locate a light bulb. But let's start another week of reading vlogs. I am still at chapter 13 of Patsy by Nicole Dennis-Benn. I am enjoying this book. I thoroughly appreciate Nicole Dennis-Benn's prose, and because of that I want to linger in this book a bit longer. There are some more difficult topics in this book than you'd regularly read in fiction, and because of that I'm taking my time with the book. I think that the prose is clear and brilliant, and the author is able to capture character in a way that I have seen before, but I'm nevertheless astounded by the way it is being used here. However, I haven't read any of the book this weekend, just due to things. Today, I want to put it aside because I really want to read The Tradition by Jericho. This is a poetry collection that I've heard a lot about. You'll all understand the feeling of a book finally having its moment and really needing to be read, and that's what's happened with this today. I'm going to probably read this until the start of the afternoon and then do a bit of reading of this. Does anyone ever end up with a pile of magazines? I have put my pile of unread magazines on the table downstairs for a while. I can't even figure out how to hold it, but it's this many. I have this books magazine that I was given for one of my birthdays. I don't know whether it was last year or the year before now. I suppose there might be a year somewhere on it. I think it was last year because of when Big Sky by Kate Atkinson came out. That was just all of my books falling on the floor. So I was gifted this for my birthday last year because my friend thought that I would appreciate what was written inside it, and I haven't read it yet. Also, since I joined the Society of Authors, I have ended up with one of their magazines every quarter, is it? And so I have Spring 2019, Autumn 2019 and Winter 2019 to be getting on with. Or was it early last month? I got this history magazine last month I got this history magazine, and I got it because it mentions ancient Mayan culture, and I like that, and I saw something about werewolves in the back, and still haven't read it, and I should because it was quite expensive. I'd probably, I could buy half a book for what I spent on this, but I don't know when I'll get to those. They'll sit on this box for I don't know how long until I eventually get to them. I have to edit last week's vlog, and I also have to put the finishing touches on a video I've been working on for a while now that I'm hoping to put out on Wednesday, which is the launch day. I don't yet have any copies of my books. There's a storm raging outside, so I don't know whether they're ever going to arrive. I don't know whether they're going to be prevented from getting here by this storm, and I am exceptionally worried. I haven't had any emails to the fact that the books might not arrive, but it's an ever-present anxiety at the moment. There might not be a lot of reading because I will be heavily focused on that. My anxieties will reach new heights and I won't be able to focus on reading or anything. There'll be just a lot of me watching Booktube and watching music videos to avoid the fact that I have a book coming out. And yeah. Should it warm up at some point this year, I imagine you will get to actually see me in something other than this coat. Anyway, I have just taken 40 minutes to get to work. It's a 20-minute journey. I have said this before, and Lord, I don't care to say it again. I left the house with enough time to spare because I'd heard on the news that certain trains weren't running because of this storm we had. I know that a lot of people, when they get in the trains, are then going to end up on my route to work, dependent on where they're having to get off to. Mondays and Fridays are usually the worst days for commuters. You're probably going to hear a lady as well who's emptying out the recycling bins. I don't know why she's doing it. I don't know why she's dipping into the recycling bins. I don't know what's happened, but she's going in the recycling. She's got a black bin bag. Maybe it's her recycling bin and she likes it kept in a certain manner. I don't know. Yes, there are people like that. And I have just seen that the bin men have gone into the skip, taken out a sewing machine and left it in the car park. It was in the skip for a reason, gents. Anyway, so I set off at 20 to 8
hoping to arrive at work for 8 o'clock, not because I am doing work at 8, I don't start till 9, but I like to be here early. And also, she's getting another bin bag. She's getting another bin bag to put more stuff. Oh, I see what's happened. I understand. Because of the storm yesterday, the bins have got filled with water, so this woman is doing like some sort of Good Samaritan duty and climbing into the bins and putting everything in bin bags to send it to landfill. I understand. Anyway, as you can tell, I get distracted easily when there is a window. I'm in my car, driving, everything's going fine. Then I get to the final roundabout on the dual carriageway. No, I don't. I got to the second to last roundabout, the penultimate roundabout on the dual carriageway, and I couldn't get past it. I couldn't go round it because it was just backed up. And so I had to wait for some traffic to move, and then I was stuck there for ages. I'm 8.6 miles away, so let's just say that that's what my average speed was getting here, was about 8 miles an hour, maybe 10 miles an hour at most, because I've just been in slow moving traffic the entire way. I got to the set of traffic lights where usually everything speeds up because things turn off to go one way to Manchester and to the airport, and I suppose we got a bit of leeway there where we could speed up, but then we got into Poynton and those traffic lights are still there, which weren't supposed to be there anymore because there was a burst water main and they were supposed to have fixed it on Thursday night, but they were back again on Friday, and they were there Saturday, and they're there today, and they just add so much time to the journey. It's madly unbelievable. Also this morning, I got to see how reckless children living in a pedestrianised area can be. And I suppose I shouldn't say children, I should say teenagers. But they were high school students, and most of this town is pedestrianised, but that's just the main route through the town. And there are zebra crossings, there are crossings all over the place. There are appropriate places for these people to be crossing the roads, but these children have clearly been taught that they can step in front of traffic and it will stop for them. And I just have to say, you need to warn your child when it's rush hour that maybe it's not ideal to step in front of cars, because whilst I was watching, certain people might not be. After we spoke yesterday, I finally finished editing my vlog that I've been working on for 2 years, and you might have seen it, you might not have done, because it has ended up being over an hour long. I had considered putting the writing vlog that I did in 2018 in the middle of that, but because that was 25 minutes, I don't think anyone really needs an hour and a half of me talking at the camera about my writing process. So it is now just this video journal, very much a vlog of me for an hour. It's the most I've ever put together on camera. It's the longest video. It's been a lot of work. I have edited this, re-edited this. As I say, I even lost clips and it's still that long. That's now online. I was very proud of this title sequence. Well, I wasn't very proud of it. There are some bits where I think it could be improved, and it was very much a test to see whether I could do it. But I enjoyed putting together the little bits of clips, and I used the theme music from, well, it's called Ron Goodwin's Miss Marple theme, and that was a bit of a soundtrack to my childhood because my mum adores the Margaret Rutherford Miss Marple films, and indeed most of us will play certain songs when we're showering or getting ready. I think it's just who we are, and that's her go-to song, is that she will always have Miss Marple, the Ron Goodwin theme as the start of her shower time. So that gives it a weird anecdotal feeling that it shouldn't have, doesn't it, really? Because now it's thinking, oh, Charlie's used the song that his mum plays in the shower, when in actual fact I was using it for the Miss Marple connotation, but it doesn't sound like that anymore, does it? Oh my god, you're a bit of an idiot, Charlie. I don't know whether you know that. That was more because I decided to wait until my books arrived. My books arrived at about 1, and so that ended up going to my room, checking a book. I wasn't going into all of them because there was one box that seemed to be rattling around. This never happened before, I don't think, or if it did, they got packaged better before, but customs have opened every single box and checked them, and that didn't happen previously. It just used to be that they'd appear at my house. I know that with Create Space they would check them, but everything would still be parcelled up and packaged nicely again. and this wasn't the case this time. So I'm worried about there being some damaged copies already. But they're currently all stacked up in my bedroom. There is one a bookcase that I can't use at all. So we won't be reading any middle grade or fantasy this month, because I just can't get to those books. And then I put that video online, and I ate some scrambled egg at some point. The issue with the video was that I had to edit these final clips onto the video I'd got. Then I added the outro that I did last week to it, and then I had to render that, and then I had to create the title sequence. So I rendered that. Then I put all the rendered videos together, and then I had to render it again so that they all stuck together, and then upload it. And it was a long process, and then I had to watch it. And so I was finally done with that at 5:25, and then I went to make my dad's tea, make my tea, so that I could sit down for Doctor Who. All I made for my dad is rice. He's not eating anything else at the moment. I do feel sorry for him. He asked if we had any mints, but we didn't. And apparently my mum's been through the fridge last night and thrown stuff away. That doesn't bother me, because I have no food in there. She's probably going to ring me tonight to ask me whether there's anything I need from the supermarket. And it's one of those things where there is definitely stuff I need from the supermarket. We're a bit low on funds, and also, I might be a bit strange in this, but when we have a full freezer, even though I'm a vegetarian, I'd much prefer to finish everything I've got in the freezer, which is just one thing, before I go and buy anything else. My family don't seem to operate that way. They seem to be going as though we've got a nuclear war arriving, which we might do, the state the world is in at the moment. So, yeah. Then I watched Doctor Who. And shall we have a Doctor Who review of the week, because we've done one for the last 2 weeks? I liked this one, but once again, I think it was a missed opportunity to use a classic villain. They never explained a certain part of it that I feel needed explaining. I think it did that good thing of tapping into people's fears. And whilst there was still this discussion of mental health in there, it wasn't so much of a PSA this time that it felt like you were receiving a sermon from a vicar. Yeah, it just felt like it fit, and it felt natural, and that's how it should work. So I like the episode, but I think it could have been done better. As I say, there are questions that I didn't get answered. They might get answered by the end of the series. I don't know. But do you ever get at one point, I don't want to give spoilers, but there was one point where I actually thought a character that turned up was going to be a future incarnation of a character, or another incarnation of a different character. Every week I feel as though they're gearing up to send these characters home and replace the companions, because every week the Doctor seems to be bringing new people into that TARDIS, and I just think, all of these people could end up leaving. I mean, I'm not going to lie, at this point, I'd be quite happy just to see Jodie Whittaker and Bradley Walsh flying around in the TARDIS together. Not for any other reason than I feel as though they're rapidly progressing characters' story arcs in order to see them leave, but I could actually understand why Graham would stay in the TARDIS as opposed to the other two. I like the characters. I'd like to see more from all the characters, but I also can see the need to sometimes change it up a little bit. Anyway, I should probably go back inside the shop today, as always. Finish at 5, go home, and gear up for my first event for An Heir to Murder tomorrow at Wilmslow Library. I followed my route on Google Street View, and have I prepared anything? No. I'm gonna wing it, as I do everything. Maybe that's why I don't have a bigger career.
It started out like any other dream. I was at Macclesfield Library, waiting for the writers' group to begin, and suddenly I was called into the other meeting room, and it transpired that I had double booked myself. One, to go and speak to industry professionals to do with traditional publishing in the other meeting room, and another to host the writers group. I went and I began to introduce myself to these publishing people. They didn't know who I was. And I remember saying, well, I've researched all of you. I might not know everything you've ever done, but I do know that you're this person and you did this. And then I excused myself for a minute. And in the process of walking between the two meeting rooms that are connected, ended up seeing two men shoot someone in the face and end up embroiled in some sort of heist situation that was happening within the library that saw me running all over the place in this library, down back stairs and everything, before eventually I ended up back upstairs to find out that nobody had learned anything in the writers group, and I was about to give them a writing burst when I remembered I was supposed to be next door. So I ran next door to the traditionally publishing workshopy thing that I'm supposed to be part of, that I've been invited to, that looks like it might be my big break. There were a few popular poets. Like, I was dreaming about proper poets here and proper writers, even a few celebrities were there, and I was missing all that to run around the library chasing... Well, I wasn't even chasing Master Gunman. I think I was actually trying to help them hide the body. And then I got to the meeting room where they're doing the publishing thing, and there's a poet rolling around the floor, like, doing whatever it's called, a forward roll, whatever you call that. And it turns out they've all planned these plays and, like, weird little interpretive dances to do. It's like, this is supposed to be about writing. And then this guy starts shouting for me, where's Charlie, where's Charlie? And, like, I remember just being stood looking through the door and thinking, I'm glad I didn't stay for this. And then I woke up. And it's Tuesday. I have my first proper event for An Heir to Murder this afternoon at Wilmslow Library. I've been planning my route again. I think that I've got it sorted. I have seen it online. I'm going to keep my phone on anyway, you know, doing the maps and everything to make sure I actually properly get there in time. So far, I've had a cup of tea. I've edited the start of last week's vlog that should have been up on Sunday, but it wasn't. Surprise, surprise. I think I'm going to release both vlogs for last week and this week. I'm going to release both vlogs this weekend, which will mean we've had a week of vlogging, and I don't think anyone's going to be happy about that. I've also had an order through off Bertram's this morning, which is always fun. I'll have to check how to properly invoice them because it's been about 4 years since I had to do that. Today is just me focused on this event and waiting for it to happen. I will update you tomorrow. I've opened the curtains behind me in the hopes that that might allow us some more light, but I don't know whether it's going to work. I feel as though I should be facing the light. If I wanted to do that, I'm just going to get the side of my face illuminated mildly. I'm also hoping that you can't see the window, because if you didn't know this about me, I'm very wary of being watched, which makes no sense considering I have a YouTube channel. But in terms of people I don't know, I am aware that the tree that's grown past my window is bare due to the fact that it's autumn and it's winter and it's doing that sort of thing that trees do during this season. So I don't tend to open my curtains at all. I worry about the sun getting on my books and bleaching them. I worry about it getting on my clothes and bleaching them. I was born to, I don't know, avoid the sun, apparently. Therefore, I was not surprised to discover a giant spider web in my window, but I'm hoping it can't be seen. Anyway, today is the launch day of An Heir to Murder, the first in my new cozy crime series. And I woke at 7:30 knowing that my hour-long documentary making of special had gone online at 6:30. And my first comment, I believe, came from Kate Howe, who has been incredibly supportive of this. And yeah, actually, this was where I was going to go. I was going to mention this, but just to say, I did just, at the end of this video, this documentary, this making of, I do give thanks to all of the booktubers and people who have supported me through the writing of this book. But today, like, I'm not the most sociable of people. Let's not pretend that I am. We saw how things went with my friend's birthday. I just don't get out of the house. It comes from, as we know, the mildest bit of agoraphobia. I'm just scared of people. So when people are reaching out and sending me messages of support and congratulations, I am always astonished and surprised. And yeah, I am a tiny bit grateful for all of you. I didn't want to have to say thank you again, but thank you again. And you've made my day. I did awake to an email from Bertram's putting in an order. Bertram's are a wholesaler, I believe, similar to Gardeners, and I think that usually Waterstones will order from Gardeners or Bertram's. I believe there are 2 orders that came through from Waterstones to Bertram's, who then have to order the books from me. And it's been sent as an urgent request. Now, it was urgent to me anyway, because I had been told by people who've ordered the books where they ordered them from and when they ordered them. Because, you know, I feel like certain companies don't believe that readers will talk to their writers, or vice versa, or that maybe a writer is actually a person too, or that a writer can also be a publisher. I don't know. Should I call myself an author now? I don't know. Either way, I had to send those books, so then I sent those to Bertram's. I had a book for a friend to send. I sent a review copy to somebody who requested one way back when. So that's sorted. It's been a bit of social stuff today that I hadn't expected. Also, Dane has uploaded his editing vlog that I first saw in October. So I have now added a link to the making of video, but I will also leave a link to that here. The Button Warehouse have been in touch thinking that tonight's going to be a success, and I'm thinking, do they know something that I don't know? Because at Wilmslow Library yesterday, I had 1 attendee, and I sold 1 book. And as my father pointed out, this means that I have a 100% success rate, and that every single person that has ever attended an event for an Heir to Murder has purchased a copy. So I might be using that going forward. But Wilmslow Library were incredibly kind. They were a bit disheartened about the fact that only 1 person had shown up. But I think, why say only 1? 1 person showed up. That is somebody who was interested enough to come to the library in that bad weather. That is a person who wanted to support the writer, wanted to support me, wanted to learn, hear more about my books. And whilst I just chatted to them for an hour about how this book came to be, and I didn't read because I spoke so much. Whilst that happened, I still sold a copy, and I still think that it worked out okay in the end. Hopefully I get more than 1 person tonight. My sister said she might come, and there's something, not to be mean or selfish, but I don't really want her there. I'm all right in front of the public and friends, but for some reason when family's there, I just get a bit self-conscious of my family being at these events. But if she comes, she comes, and we'll see. I'm still hoping to try and get some clips of the launch tonight. I keep trying to sit up straight as well. Have you noticed? There's a lot of bobbing up and down in my recent videos as I catch myself slouching. I am trying not to be a sloucher. I'm trying to emphasise the fact that this jumper's too baggy for me now, and I've turned it into a house jumper. So I am now at page 223 of Patsy by Nicole Dennis-Benn. Yes, I've been reading this book for nearly a week now, but that doesn't change my admiration for this book. Last night I was reading it, and I wanted to highlight passages, and I wanted to share them with everybody because there is some beautiful prose in here. And by beautiful prose, I just mean that she captures the essence of people, and she captures the essence of an environment incredibly well through her words. And there is talk of depression in this book that I think was handled incredibly well. And there was a scene between Patsy and her friend, whose name I can't even remember now because I'm a horrible person, and it just fits so well. We're slouching again. So yeah, I'm thoroughly adoring this book, and it's taking my time because, honestly, because I'm feeling somewhat nervous and restless about the fact that I have a book out today, all of my mental energy is focused on that, and so I find it easier to watch mindless stuff on YouTube and Netflix as opposed to sitting down and reading to try and take my mind off the upcoming event where I have to get up and speak and chat to people, because I don't think I'm that good at it. And in fact, whilst I was lying in bed last night, I was thinking Steve Donahue would curse me right now, because he talks about all the time about people wasting their time, and I am wasting my time tons because I could be writing. Writing could take my mind off the book that I've got coming out this evening, and reading could take my mind off it, and instead I've been watching Willem's Beatdown on YouTube and not doing anything. I've also been watching clips from Dragon's Den though, which hasn't taught me anything about business. I also need to shave. I'm slouching. I need to shave. I need to shower. And I have washed clothes, but I don't think my shirt's going to dry. I've also accidentally ruined my shoes. Let me grab one for you. Shoes are expensive, and I have been buying my shoes from the charity shop for nearly 2 years now, apart from a pair of Doc Martens that I bought on sale, again, 2 years ago, and tripped over. And the sole was already coming away from the shoe, but I got it caught, so the sole's come off that, and it's even worse on the other. I mean, look at that. So I was gonna wear, even that. I was gonna wear those tonight, but I can't. So it looks like I'm gonna have to wear the Doc Martens. And I mean, I got them to be a writer's shoe, but can you imagine being stood in front of people for an hour with my Doc Martens? They're like the print ones. I will throw up an image here because I can't be bothered picking them up and finding them over by the bookcase. Can I? I've shown them in a video before anyway. They've got Satan's smiting job with boils on them, and it's not really a look you go for. But hey, I'll be wearing them. I'll be shaved, I'll be showered. I might not do my hair because apparently when I waxed my hair, my brother's boss said that I hadn't done my hair in comparison to how it was done in the Macclesfield Express. And that was the time I gelled my hair. And I didn't. I had hat hair in the Mac Express. So, yeah. Today my focus is to launch a book. I'm not launching it into space. I'm not launching it at somebody's head. An Heir to Murder will be properly aired to the world at 7 p.m. And I think it's going to be okay. I launched the book last night and I didn't actually end up getting any footage. This happens every single time I say I'm going to try and get some footage, doesn't it? I had hoped that my sister might come along. Even though I didn't really want her there, she would have been able to record for me, but my mother wasn't about that. However, I have stolen a photo from Instagram that was taken by Simon, who is one of the people who runs Button Warehouse, and so I will share that somewhere. I'm going to find out whether anybody else took any photos. I could see people with their phones out at certain times during the night, but I haven't yet seen any of the photos. I always said this would be a more relaxed night, and it definitely was. I didn't get as many people as I had anticipated. I took 2 boxes of the books and I sold 14 copies. So I was a bit too prepared for the launch, but still got up there and I spoke and I was incredibly sarcastic and doing that thing that I always do where I'm questioning whether I did something wrong in terms of last night. I always do these things where I do a talk and I read and I just think, this is all well and good, but did it go okay? And so I'm here being my usual worrisome self, wondering whether anything went right last night. Obviously, something went right because I sold the books, and it felt more like a conversation than a launch, and I don't know whether it's just that I don't have any professionalism about me. I'd hoped for that to last for a bit, but it was over by 9 o'clock and people had left, and so then it just ended up being me, Joy, her husband, and my mother, and we were just stood around chatting for a bit, and then I came home and watched an episode of Midsummer Murders I had recorded and felt incredibly terrible because I hated it. I have absolutely no idea it's one of those where when they revealed the murderer, the motive made no sense as to why he'd end up killing people, and you'd at least expect some hints to the murder beforehand, but that didn't happen. It felt very cheap, poorly done, and rushed. I felt like they didn't have the actors for as much time as they wanted the actors. It was poor. Came to bed and sat staring at the ceiling, wondering about whether anything had gone wrong that evening. But I have awoken this morning and I have seen that I have got an order for 4 books from a very lovely person. I shan't name names, but they know who they are, who even used my Ko-fi page, sent me a tip, a donation through Ko-fi or Ko-fi, however you're supposed to pronounce it, and also bought 4 books, and that warmed my heart last night, that did. So I have read some more of Patsy this morning. I finished the next part, so I'm at page 240, and I could finish that today. If I do finish this today, then I will go into reading Ghost Wall by Sarah Moss, which is one of the books I'm reading for the Booktube Prize. And if I don't finish it today, that's still going to be the book I next go to. This afternoon I have the writers group, but we can't get in until 10 to 2 because it's a staff training day, so the library is closed. Why would you close a library? Why would you do that? It's just, it's not on, mate. It's not on. I don't mind too much. Everybody has to have these training days. We recently closed a shop for staff training, so... Was it staff training? No, it was staff meeting, different thing. And I've sent a request to my mother for coffee from around the corner because I can't be bothered putting the machine on.
I'm not planning to be recording for long, but I've taken my coat off. And my hat. And my scarf. And I perhaps should have ended with hat because hat hair. Oh, I feel a bit low. As in, I just felt low. No sadness here today, which is always fun. It's Friday. I have arrived at work and the bins are in a certain person's parking space. As I have mentioned previously, I now arrive a bit later than I was doing because ever since I slept in, I discovered that it is possible for me to leave the house a bit later, and thus he has had to park where I used to park over there, and I got a rather nice, evil glare off one of the office workers from upstairs as I was pulling into the car park this morning. This might be because once I nearly accidentally ran him over, but considering these people who work in the offices upstairs once drove a car at me for fun, as jokes, you know, my accident of him walking directly in the middle of the car park as I was pulling into the car park are completely different than me walking out of the shop a few months beforehand, I might add, and just having someone drive their pickup at me for a bit of fun. Arseholes. Anyway, so they're not happy because the bins are in the parking space, but I'm not the bin man. I didn't leave the bins there. I didn't decide that because we are contracted with a certain bin company and we've decided to get rid of that contract for a greener bin company, it's not my fault that they've got a bit upset and decided that they're no longer going to bring the bins back to where they're supposed to go. Indeed, it's fun that they're actually leaving them straight because they were just pushing them into the middle of the car park, and when I got here I was having to put them back, which didn't solve anything because then the people upstairs were still having to park differently because they weren't able to navigate their very large rich person vehicles around the bins. Perhaps this is also a case of the haves and the have-nots fighting against each other. Perhaps it is certain richer people disliking the fact that there's a charity shop in this town because charity shops, for whatever reason, ruin the reputation of towns the world over. I don't know. I don't care. Ours is not to reason why, as we know. Yesterday, I believe I mentioned that I was hoping to finish Patsy by Nicole Dennis-Benn last night. This did not happen for a specific reason. Well, more than one specific reason. So no specific reason. I got home and decided I wanted to have some tea. But my mother was cooking a roast dinner for everyone. Not me, vegetarian. And so I, rather than read, because I didn't want to watch what my dad was watching, I chose to watch some YouTube. And then once I finally got my tea, my dad had Emmerdale on in the background. And I don't like false imprisonment storylines. They've been done to death now. Ever since Deirdre Barlow got sent down in the 1990s, not a year goes by that some poor sod isn't getting thrown in prison for something they didn't do. I cannot be bothered with it. And thus, I shan't be watching Emmerdale until this storyline is over. And that, to avoid this, I always just watch something on my computer and keep the volume to a level that I can't hear the people on the television that is directly behind me. So last night I was watching Gavin and Stacey's Christmas special because I've been watching them in order, and this is the bridge between season 2 and 3. I should say series. I'm turning into, well, I'm using American vernacular, which does not go down well in the north, I will have you know. Series 2 is finished. I've watched the Christmas special in February, no less. And this means that now I just have to watch the final series. And then that Christmas special, and then I'll probably go back and do it all over again. I did this with another show a few years ago. I think I mentioned doing it with Parks and Recreation, but I also did it with Bob's Burgers when I first discovered Bob's Burgers. And so I didn't read Patsy until it was supposed to be 9, but it was about half. Oh no, it wasn't. No, I did start reading it at 9 o'clock after a tiny bit of theological discussion with my dad. You had some questions about the Bible, and then I ended up going to my friend Lizzie. I'll link her channel, who is studying theology, and basically said, do you know about the historical Christ? Because as we know, I'm not interested in becoming religious. It's not for me. I appreciate anyone who has a faith, is of a faith, great stuff. I'm not gonna, talk down to that or anything. You do you. But I am interested in the idea of the historical Christ, and so I went to her and I said, do you know how? And she got back in touch and she's like, yes, find these books. Read these texts. She's going to make me a list of stuff I should read and media I should, and I'm thrilled. Honestly, I know there's a few people on Booktube who are doing something similar. Someone commented on something I said way back in December, maybe, giving me something to read. And I know that Steve Partridge, he knows a lot of these texts as well, but I know Lizzie. So once that was over, I started reading Patsy. I was at page 256. I'm now on page 330. I have 100 pages left to read, and I'd like to read them tonight. My dad is getting fed up of seeing the book. He always comments, because he never reads the books, but he always recognises what I'm reading. He said, you've been reading that for a long time, Charlie. I said, I know, I've been reading it since last Monday. But I was actually editing the making of An Heir to Murder last week and making sure that was finished. And I was recording the final clips for that. All this stuff, but he doesn't know about all that. And he doesn't know about the worry and anxiety I was feeling about the books not arriving or launch day going terribly. He doesn't know that I was just watching terrible pop music and short comedic videos on YouTube because I couldn't cope with watching Booktube or anything associated with books, just because I was that worried. So that's why there are a few videos last week where I didn't comment, but I liked and I put them into that playlist that I mentioned. I should also say that I know that I'm not asking people if they want to be part of this playlist. It's just because you can no longer see my liked videos, and I like every Booktube video that I watch, and so I've been putting them into this folder. I know I should probably ask whether people want to be in there, so if you don't want to be in this playlist, then get in touch and I'll take you out of it. If you don't want to be associated with my channel, if you happen to really dislike me and don't want to be associated with me, it's perfectly fine. Get in touch and I'll remove you from the playlist. Luckily, nobody has yet, so that's kind, that's good, that's the way I wanted things to go, really. It's because I never actually do shout-out videos, and I'm aware that when it comes to Booktube, once you've made a few friends and you're chatting to a few people regularly, then they become the people that you talk about more than anyone else, because they've just, you know, parasitically inserted themselves into your life. I probably shouldn't call people parasites. That's not very nice, Charlie. Hopefully you all recognise that that was indeed humorous. As we all know, incredibly sarcastic. It was employed to great aplomb on Wednesday evening at the launch, and so I did ask yesterday whether it went well, because everyone was telling me they had a great night. The people at the writers group who'd also come to the launch were all telling me they'd had a great time. It was a great night. They, you know, like seeing me do that. I got that whole comment, you should do stand-up again, and I get it a lot, yet I don't think it's something I would ever do, because that comes with its whole other thing. There is a librarian who's offered me the opportunity to go and do something to do with my monologues at their library, but it means learning one of the monologues off by heart, and usually I'm all about reading them off the page, not gonna lie. Joy said to me yesterday when I was asking her what she thought, because as I admitted I was worried, and she said no, it was fine, and I said yeah, but I'm doing that thing that we all do where we question how everything went, and she went you're in that, and I was like yeah, so you know, it's just that thing I think everyone does. After a performance they begin tearing it apart and thinking about what they could have done better, and she said it was fine how it went. We'll probably talk about it more another time when I haven't been talking so much already, but for now I'm going inside. I'm gonna put the heating on, probably try and fix this hair with some weird gel stuff, and set to work. I finished reading Patsy last night. This is going to be one of those times when I'm not sure how I felt about a book. I adore Nicole Dennis-Benn's writing. I think that she is incredibly skillful when it comes to craft, and there are moments of writing in this book that made me stop and consider how she'd written something, consider the honesty of what she had written. I really adore the way that she created characters. The reason I need to think about this book more is because whilst the book is entitled Patsy, I question, is it about her at all? Is it called Patsy due to the dual meaning of the name and the word? Is this really a book more about the undocumented citizens in America and telling their stories through the eyes of Patsy, whilst also telling the story of those left behind? Because of that, I'm going to hold off giving my opinion on it. But I spent nearly 2 weeks with this book. Whilst there were some days where I didn't pick it up, for the most part, every time I did, I ended up enjoying it, and whilst I wasn't reading the book, I was thinking about when I would next get the opportunity. Which means tonight I will be reading Ghost Wall by Sarah Moss, which is one of the books that I'm reading for the Booktube Prize, therefore I won't be talking about it in these parts. But it's different to any of the books that I've read so far, I think, so that's something. This evening my father will probably be watching The Voice, and I'll be watching that with him. And that does mean that I will be reading during the adverts. I'm still unsure how I feel about these vlogs. So I think we've tried it for what, a month? We've done a few of these vlogs now. I still have last week's vlog to edit and put together. But I don't feel as though I'm adding anything new. I don't feel like it's anything more than me basically doing Dear Diary entries. Do let me know how you feel about this sort of video and whether it's something I should continue doing. I hope that you have got something out of following me around this week, even if it was just fulfilling your sexual desires at some sort of weird fetish you have for hats. I'm glad to have helped. And until next time, that is all.